Welcome to Spare Change News TV. My name is Sam Baltrusis. I am the editor-in-chief of Spare Change News. Joining me today is Vincent Flanagan.
Hello.
Welcome, Vincent.
Thank you.
Vincent is the executive director of the Homeless Empowerment Project. He also is my boss, which is Spare Change News. So, Vincent, how did you get involved with Spare Change News?
I had been working for another group that advocated trying to end homelessness through Housing First, a group called Give Us Your Pour. So I was interested in the issue of homelessness, and I bought the paper every 2 weeks from the same vendor, and I got very close to him. And one day he said, I'm looking for a new executive director. You should apply. I did, and that's how I got here.
So, like from my experience, like when I joined Spare Change News, I joined January 1st. How has the paper changed since you've been executive director?
I think the paper's expanded its coverage. In some ways, it was very narrow. It told the same story over and over again about people who had been addicted or abused alcohol or had a domestic violence problem or lost a job and were homeless in different ways. Now I think it's more of a social justice paper and talks about bigger issues, and also has arts and entertainment as it ties into homelessness. I think it's a more diverse and a more professionally written paper than when I came.
Yeah, my goal coming in is to be a little bit subversive. I think it's important for us to be the voice for the homeless community, and also to advocate for change. And I think that since October 8th, when Long Island closed, there has been a huge void in regards to services for the homeless. And I think that, you know, I view Spare Change News as a vehicle to not only spotlight people who are homeless, but also really advocate for change in the system. And you know, this winter was tough for Boston's homeless population and Cambridge's homeless population. You know, so you said that the paper has gotten more, you know, focused on issues. I also feel like that, like the Boston Phoenix, when that closed, it's really important for me to kind of to fill that void. So like an alternative news weekly. Mm-hmm. So what types of stories do you like to read in Spare Change News?
I like to read stories that talk about issues that are that people are considering ways to address the problem of homelessness in the big picture. You know, in how, you know, how are we going to end homelessness as we know it. I also like to read stories about people who dedicated their lives to the problem of addressing homelessness, and who also have overcome it and now are productive members of society.
Yeah, I mean, I think our last issue, Queen's Journey, was a lot of that, a lot of profiles, people who, you know, had a rough patch in life and basically reinvented themselves. And you know, Queen's story was one of those examples that I love to do. And then we have Cleve Ray, who was on the show last week. He was on Long Island when the bridge closed, and he's a powerful example of someone who he had a really tough time and didn't have a place to go after the bridge closed, and became an advocate for the homeless population. So he definitely is one of those people who I believe kind of represents the new Spare Change News. Now, as far as like sales, how is the paper? I know it was tough for us during the winter because all the vendors were out in the cold selling the paper. Are we improving with sales?
We're definitely improving in sales for 3 reasons. One, the weather is getting better. 2, your editorship has improved the paper, so I think it's a product that is easier to sell, and people are beginning to realize it's a better product. And third, we have recruited new vendors and expanded into sites that we never were in before. So when you combine those three factors, I think that's the reasons why sales have gone up significantly in the last several issues. And I think we'll continue to go up.
I see from my perspective like a genuine excitement when the issue comes out. Thanks to the show, we have loyal followers of the show, and also people are reading the paper and actually reading the paper. I think for many years, people would just buy the paper for the vendors, and people are actually picking it up and reading it and enjoying it and looking forward to the paper when it comes out again. So speaking of the paper, our next issue is on addiction, and our cover is very interesting. I interviewed my friend Joey, who wrote a book called Acrobatics, and it's about he was in Cirque du Soleil when I met him, and he wrote about his addiction to heroin, and it is a heartbreaking story, but it's also a story of redemption as well. He was able to go through recovery and actually, he's in recovery now, and he's been 8 years clean from heroin, which is a huge deal. And heroin is pretty much destroying our community. We've had hundreds of deaths since the past 3 months in Massachusetts, and I feel like that we needed to talk about heroin addiction in the paper. So have you with addiction, what are some of your, because I talked about this before, but there's some issues in regards to stereotypes. I thought that everyone vendor wise at Spare Change News would be alcoholic or a drug addict, which is not true at all. What were some of the stereotypes you had coming into Spare Change News, and how have they changed?
I don't think I had those stereotypes because of being with Give Us Your Pour, but going back to before I was with Give Us Your Pour, I think I had the same stereotypes that most people have, that most of the homeless population were drug users or alcohol users or suffering from domestic abuse. And I now realize that a huge number of Americans are one paycheck away from being homeless, and I think we've made it clear that our vendors are people from a diverse background, and that significantly less than half of our vendors had a substance abuse problem at any point in their life.
And so Vincent is executive director of the Homeless Empowerment Project. There are several things that he's on air today to talk about. One of those things is this weekend, there's going to be the 10,000 Villages promotions. Tell me a little bit about that, or tell our viewers about that.
I had heard that 10,000 Villages made their store available to not-for-profits, where for part of a given day, 10% of the net sales went to the not-for-profit. So I talked to the manager in the Cambridge store, and on April 18th from 12 to 5 in the store in Cambridge, in the store in downtown Boston, and in the store in Brookline, 10% of the net sales from 10,000 Villages will go to us that day.
Awesome. And
and 10,000 Villages itself is a store that sells products made by artisans from the third world. So they're also directly supporting people of poverty.
So just to reiterate, so this Saturday from noon to what time?
5 o'clock.
Noon to 5 p.m. Proceeds from your purchases at 10,000 Villages will go to a Homeless Empowerment Project, and which directly links to Spare Change News. So you will be helping us, and also hopefully getting some awesome products at 10,000 Villages this weekend. Are you going to be at any of the locations this Saturday?
I will be at the store in Cambridge, which is at 694 Mass Ave in Central Square.
Which is right down the street.
Right down the street from here. My wife will be at the Washington Street store, which is not far from the Park Street T-Stop in downtown, right, about 3 blocks from where Macy's and formerly Filene's was. The Brookline store, no one from our organization will be there, but the store manager has volunteered to represent us.
Awesome. And I'm hoping that we'll have the paper there to be sold as well, or
The paper will be there. There will be volunteer sign-up sheet there. There will be information regarding what our mission is, what our main programs are. So people not only can support us by buying something and to getting us money that way, they can sign up as volunteers to help us out. There also is information on how to directly donate to Spare Change News, so that day they feel like, well, in addition to buying this product, I feel like making a $100 donation to Spare Change News. There will be the material for them to know how to do that.
So this is a great opportunity to support Spare Change News, in addition to paying for the paper every other week when it comes out. And also to reiterate, the paper comes out, it's bi-weekly, and our vendors who are either homeless or formerly homeless, they sell the paper throughout Cambridge, throughout Boston, and a lot of you actually purchase the paper every other week when it comes out. And a suggested donation is $1. However, when I buy the paper, which I still do buy the paper, I usually give the vendors $3 to $5, sometimes even $10. So that money goes directly to the vendors. Now, they actually pay 35 cents per issue per paper, and that 35 cents goes to operations. And so by helping 10,000 villages, you're going to help with operations for the paper, to pay me, and then also to pay for computers, printing costs. There's so many other fees that we have to pay for that is not covered with that 35 cents. So speaking of paying for operations, we have this big gala coming up in May. I'm so excited about this gala. So tell us about the gala.
Well, you're excited. I'm even more excited. It's on May 12th.
May 12th.
A Tuesday night at the Nerd Center at 1 Memorial Drive. It's from 6 to 9. It has as its keynote speaker Jimmy Tingle, the humorist and social commentator, and the founder of Humor for Humanity. Jimmy's been a great friend of Spare Change News. He did a pro bono a free concert for us in Somerville. He's given us proceeds from other concerts. We will also be honoring with an award to Bob Herbert, the executive director of Cambridge Community Foundation, who's retiring. Bob has been a tremendous supporter of the Homeless Empowerment Project through awarding us grants. The Cambridge Community Foundation has numerous categories of grants. We've gotten grants from 3 different sources within the foundation, and he's in some way been a mentor to me. The first thing I did when I joined Spare Change News was go and talk to Bob Herbert, because I was told if you want to learn about Cambridge and how to deal with getting funds to help your paper and the homeless, go talk to Bob. Bob, I've met few people as knowledgeable and dedicated to addressing the needs of homeless and poor people, and we're honored to be the first group that I know of that will be giving him an award. So it's May 12th from 6 to 9 at the Nerd Center, Microsoft, on Memorial Drive. You can get there by car. The parking's $10, or you can take the red line to Kendall and walk a few blocks. There's a cash bar. There's a classical guitarist, musician. There's free food, and there's a silent and live auction, which will have between 30 and 40 items that people can bid on.
So just to reiterate, so it's May 12th, which is a Tuesday night from 6 to 9. Tickets are $60. You can purchase them online at sparechangenews.net. You can also, if you're a student, there's a discount for students.
Yeah, the discount for students, the price for students is $35. Also for seniors, 65 or older, is $35. As Sam said, you can purchase them either by going on our website, www.sparechangenews.net/donate, or by mailing us a check at 1151 Massachusetts Avenue at the Homeless Empowerment Project. You can also purchase tickets at the door for $5 more than the price.
So you mentioned that our keynote speaker is Jimmy Tingle, the one and only. We are going to play a quick clip about Jimmy, about his Humor for Humanity.
My new adventure is a social enterprise that I call Humor for Humanity. You know, I've been a comic for over 30 years. I love doing it. And over the years, I've got asked to do a lot of fundraisers, charity events. I want to create a business that actually helps nonprofits and charities do what they're trying to do.
And I got the idea for Humor for Humanity at the Kennedy School. I was in one of the classes and one of the guest speakers said, do what you're uniquely qualified to do in this world. Do what you're uniquely qualified to do. So what am I uniquely qualified to do? Well, I tell jokes, I hopefully make people laugh, I hopefully make them think, and I hopefully make them feel better. So what I want to do is I want to create this business idea, this social enterprise called Humor for Humanity. Humor for Humanity, more than entertainment. Raising spirits, funds, and awareness for nonprofits, charities, and social causes. Our mission is your mission. Humor for humanity. Humor in helping, humor in healing, humor and hope. Ha ha ha.
Welcome back to Spare Change News TV. Again, my name is Sam Baltrusis. I'm the editor-in-chief of Spare Change News. So, Jimmy Tingle, tell us the history of getting Jimmy to join our gala, to be the keynote speaker.
A couple of years ago, and asked if he would do a benefit concert for us. And he did, and I was at the concert, and I got to know Jimmy, and Jimmy wanted to become more involved in Spare Change News. And we met at Grendel's Den, which I discovered is Jimmy's hangout, but when I showed up, they said, oh, you want to go to Jimmy's table until he gets here. And he said he wanted to write for the paper, so he wrote a column for the paper. And he said, "Well, I want to stay involved. I don't want this to be the last time you and I see each other." And so we've kept in touch. And then he started Humor for Humanity. In his first Humor for Humanity concert, there were 3 recipients, and he asked me if we would like to be one. We answered most definitely yes. And then when it came time to pick a keynote speaker, I thought, Jimmy fits this perfectly. He's developed what we're doing in a way. We're an entrepreneurial exercise for homeless people and poor people, and we're empowering them by giving them a job. And Jimmy's using a business model that usually produces money for him to produce money not only for him but for poor and homeless people. So we share that same way of using an entrepreneurial model to produce funds to help the homeless. So I asked him if he was willing to be a keynote speaker. He very generously waived his usual fee for speaking, which is sizable, much more than we could ever have afforded, and agreed to do it for free. And while I have a moment, thank you, Jimmy.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Jimmy will be a great keynote speaker because he'll not only really make you think about the issues, but he'll also make you laugh at the same time. And one of the things Jimmy and I have talked about is that you can get very depressed working in this field,
right?
And seeing the people on the street. I live right off the Common, so I see homeless people every day. And Jimmy will help us by being an attraction, but at the same time he'll keep people relaxed and enjoying themselves.
Yeah, Jimmy, I worked with him briefly when he was in Davis Square. He had at the Jimmy Tingle Theater in Somerville. He's really funny, but he has a big heart, and he's very generous when it comes to helping out people who are less fortunate, specifically homeless people and people who are long time are priced out of their homes for various reasons. So Jimmy is definitely someone. I'm glad that you reached out to him to be the keynote speaker at our gala. So speaking of being priced out of your home, we have one more clip regarding families who have been priced out, and there's a huge issue in regards to evictions and people not being able to afford their homes because of the skyrocketing in rents.
I am being displaced. I am a native and Bostonian. I am in my 30s. I grew up right in the center of Boston, dead smack Roxbury. I'm in Dorchester now, Cobden Square area, my family home. I'll be homeless in less than 24 hours. They took foreclosure in 2012. I don't know how I'm going to get through second to second. I've been having panic attacks. I haven't slept in the last 3 weeks. Fannie Mae is playing hardball. And if this just law eviction was in place, I would be able to have some time to actually move, to find out if negotiations would be through. I wouldn't be on the verge of a nervous breakdown. The home where I live now, until tomorrow was a place of love, was a place of refuge.
When we fight, we win! When we fight, we win! This is my home. This is my community. Tomorrow, I may have to move out of my home, what I call home. I'm really scared. I'm under a lot of fear. I don't know what to do. But I have to stay in Chinatown. And I'm asking everyone here and beyond to support me to stay in my home, to stay in my community.
ông chú hậu年呢行人啟智，但睇吧，跟住睇吧，未睇吧機啦，睇吧，啲人其實唔係啦，未睇吧機啦，我即係自我嗰時就5年幾，即係變咗天涼藍，我先拿落喺架，即係呢，我個張彈琴。mà có lỗ có siêu gì vì thiên lấy muốn anh này ốc tù hay ăn lại đại nó ở trên phố Hàn này ở đây anh này cái năng nghiền mà nó ốc tù hay mà họ còn đi đó.
South Boston now can only be, for other parts of Boston, a cautionary tale. Because I have heard and I believe that the last 15 years has seen an influx of 70% of our population. So that leaves 30% long-time residents. This is a sadness I have. My nieces and nephews who grew up here cannot live here because they could not afford to buy and they did not want to rent. They couldn't afford to rent either if they wanted to raise a family. I've heard the statement that housing is we're in desperate need for housing. That translates into we're in desperate need for luxury housing because that's all that seems to be going up. High-end housing.
You don't hear it in the news unless it's a major development downtown. But much of the neighborhood changes occur very quietly, it seems to me, based on landlords and their resources and how much clout they have in City Hall and 1010 Mass Ave.
Everybody should have a roof over their head, food in their stomachs, and warmth in the winter, and be able to survive. I mean, come on.
Rents have been going up a lot in the past couple of years, about 20 to 30% in the last 2 years. And they're also building over 900 units of luxury apartments in East Boston along the waterfront. The developers are expecting $3,000 rents. And that's just gonna increase the rate that the rents go up for everyone. Only 8% of people that currently live in East Boston would be able to afford the kinds of rents that they're asking for in these luxury apartments. What will happen is that we'll see basically a lot of young white professionals moving in, and then the immigrants that live in East Boston will be pushed out.
Stop the eviction! 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 Stop the eviction!
Welcome back to Spare Change News TV. Vincent, it was a pleasure having you on the show.
It was a pleasure being on the show, and it's a pleasure working with you. You're doing a great job. We're all very grateful. If I could just say one thing in passing.
Sure.
Not only are we watching people being priced out of their homes, but we're watching America criminalize homelessness, which is something I wanted to say while I had the chance. There are 30 cities now where where you can be fined if you feed a homeless person. So if I give a homeless person a sandwich, I can be fined, yet I can give a dog a biscuit in the park. That's not the America I want to live in.
Vincent is absolutely right. There's the criminalization of homelessness and just criminalization in regards to people who are on the streets, especially if you're unsheltered. So if you're not in the shelter system and you're on the streets, many people are asked to leave. Some people are even arrested for being homeless. It's insane.